Welcome to West Green, Steve here. What I've got here is a Connoisseur O4O starter kit, Polly. Here's the body. Still a lot of work to do on that. But what I want to show you today, I'm going to put a DCC chip in it. So I thought I'd do a video to show you just how easy it is to do. And just so you know, this colour here, it looks a bit light. This is the eastern region. You can see roughly the colour. So that's the eastern region blue, and that's the blue of Polly. But it does tend to look lighter than what it really is. Anyway, let's get on with it. I'm going to be installing the TCS T1 decoder. This is actually a replacement because I actually goofed it up. And I'll tell you about that later. But anyway, they sent me another one. And it was my fault. Anyway, there's the actual chip. So it's only pretty small. Here's a wiring harness. Now, first thing I'm going to do is there's only 4 wires to use. There's loads of wires here, you can use those for lights or whatever. But I'm using 4. I'm going to be using red and black. Just think of it this way, red and black go to the track. Orange, where is it? Orange and grey go to the motor, and the rest you don't use, or I'm not using it. So here's the harness. I've got red and black, so when I say go to the track, I'll go to the pickups. Orange and grey, they go to the motor. The rest of these wires, I don't want to cut them off, so what I've done, I've twisted them together, and what I did is I stepped them down a bit, cut them one after a bit short, and this is heat shrink. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shrink this on. So I've got my soldering iron, temperature control, it's turned up to 480, and basically I'm just going to touch it on there. Let's put it on there. And it will shrink down, won't come off, and none of these wires can touch. You may recall I told you about the goof-proof warranty and no questions asked and what you can do with a chip. Well, let me tell you, I've just put the chip in, and I'll show you it to you. I'm only using 4 wires, red and black to the track, and orange and grey go to the motor. What's really important, now there's the chip, there's the wires which I'm not using, there's the chip in the harness. Red and black go to the pickups, there's the 2 pickups, the plunger pickups, red and black, and the orange and grey, they go to the red and grey which go to the motor. What's really important, because this is a high risk time, is that the input wires which are there don't touch the output. In other words, what you don't want to do is get track current or track voltage into the output side of the chip. If you do, you can kiss this thing goodbye. You'll fry the chip. I know, because I've done it twice, and I'm not the only one. Now, the great thing about DCC is that a DCC engine will also run on an analog layout, so that even though I'm running DCC, I can run it on analog, unless of course you program it not to. But and you think, why would you do it? Well, all the chips come to run on analog unless you swap it. It allows me to take locos elsewhere. Now, so I want it to run on analog, and I also want it to run the right way. Now, what do I mean by the right way? That's the front of the loco. That's the smoke. That's the smoke box. That is the bunker on this particular loco. Convention has it that this, and all manufacturers adhere to this convention, that if the furthest rail from you is positive with respect to the closest rail, then the locomotive will run that way. And as you know, with analog, if you turn the loco around, it will still run the same direction. With DCC, it's a bit different. There's a forward and reverse, and because the power is actually being fed from a chip, forward will always be forward. So if you turn it round, it will still run forward as far as the loco is concerned. Okay, so the first thing I've got to do, I've just twisted these wires together. First thing I'm going to do is put it on the track and make sure that it runs the right way as it did before. So in other words, it should run, if that's positive and that's negative, it should run this way. If it doesn't, all I've got to do is select either the input wire or the output wire and swap them around, and that way it will run the correct way, and that will be good. However, will it run forward for DCC, or will it run reverse? You actually don't have to change it. You can actually you can change it, the program in the chip, to reverse the direction, but I won't do that. If it runs DCC okay, sorry, not DCC, if it runs analog okay, but then it doesn't run DCC okay, well, what I will then do is swap both input and output around. That way DC will run okay, and DCC will also run okay, because if it was running in reverse, if I swap both of them around, that will satisfy it that it will run the correct way. So we're going to put it on the track in a minute, and we're going to test it. The other thing to notice about DCC, and this, all locos, if you buy a DCC ready on board loco, or you buy a chip, they all come with an address of 3. So I know for a fact that when I try this on DCC, without even programming it, it will run on address 3. Now I'm not going to leave it at that. This loco is number 12, so guess what I'm going to call it? You guessed it, 12, and that's a programming thing, but we'll go there in a minute. I'm going to go inside now and put it on my track. So I put it on my track. I've got this is a motor input that comes from the pickups, goes into the chip. That's one. The other side, and they're not touching. The orange and grey go to the motor, and they're not touching. And most importantly, these aren't touching that. Here's the proof of the pudding. I'll turn this on, see if she runs. I'll put it in forward direction. Okay, so that's going forward. That's forward, because that's the smoke box. And just to prove what I said, here's my multimeter. Hold on, I'll put this down. Positive and probes on there, so that should be positive. It's not really negative, so that is the rear rail, that is more positive than that one, and it's going forward, so it works fine on analog. or DC, call it what you like. If it had run the wrong way, I would have just selected a pair of wires, either the input or the output, and swapped it over, and then it would run right on DC. So I'm going to test it on DCC now. So my test track, I'll turn this off. Take these off. Okay, I've got 9523 in here, which is this N2 up here, 69523. So let's see if it works. This is on DCC. And it's going forward, and that's not operating. So what I'm going to do now is change the number to 3. Select loco. I think it's 0, 0, 0. Let's see if just 3 goes. Hit enter. Now, let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. Let's run on DCC. You know, it's a direction forward, and it's going forward. So I've just fluked it. If this was going the wrong way, I've got 2 options. I leave it as it is and change the programming in the chip, or I change both the input around and the output. That means it hasn't affected the DC component of it. But it's at the output what changes the DCC. And so as it is, that's running. Let's make it go up to maximum speed. Let's run it in reverse. Direction. So it's bunker first. There you go. So what do I do now? I'm going to reprogram it. Okay. Program track. Those wires come down. This is just my test track. If this was on a layout, I'd feed the DCC input and this through a double pole, double throw switch, and have an inner side I'd have an isolated section where I could just make this a programming track. Anyway, so what we're going to do. Put it into program mode. Program on the main nut. Use programming track. Enter. Standard programming. It will read the chip. .153, which is TCS. Hit enter. Tells me what version it is, whatever that means. Hit enter again. Activate address short setup. Address 1 for yes. Let's make it 12. Activate this address 1 and this will should move forward. Okay. Let's select loco. 1, 2. Enter. Now let's see if it works. Look at that. It's running on DCC as number 12. And in the meantime, as well as running that, select loco 9523. 9523. Enter. Look at that. So I've got two locos running on one controller. Direction. Okay, the next thing is to tidy up this wiring. So, these spare ones, you can see I've stepped those down. It's got heat shrink on it. There's 4 wires here, but what I've done, you can see 2 are facing upwards and 2 are down, and there's an insulation piece in the middle. So they're all sealed. The whole thing is sealed. All I've got to do now is secure the chip to there. Oh. God, wrong controller. Let's put the body on it. I think that runs pretty well. Let's reverse it. One DCC Polly O4O. I've got my nameplates Polly to go on. Someone just suggested to me that I should get number plates called Big Jim. I wonder what Jim would think about it. Oh, Big Jim. Anyway, that's it. That's another exciting video from me. Please like and subscribe. I'd really like you to do that. Anyway, if it's been helpful, let me know. If it's not, also let me know. Thanks for watching.